Is it time to FOMO into Bitcoin? Is it time to just FOMO into everything in this market as Bitcoin does trade back above $62,000 just a few days after the bear market of 2024? And of course, this was a target that we had based off of the rebound, regardless of whether you're super bullish or super bearish, that was likely to happen as a move towards the median on the daily HPDR. Now that has pretty much been met as of right now. So it's time to be discussing, what's likely to happen after this in Friday. Obviously a big closure for the weekly for CME today as well. And then we'll also be going over and extrapolating on the 12-hour time frame setup that we spoke about on yesterday's video. So without further ado, we can start off right here with the short term. For today, Friday, there is a slightly higher probability to close negatively than positively, especially after a big move like we saw yesterday. Perhaps having a bit of a pullback, consolidating on the lower term time frames is likely the name of the game here. And we can see that Friday does have an average negative return of 2.5% versus the average positive return, which is about 2.25%. I do think that the average negative return very likely will get hit. 2.5% to the downside from the current open would put Bitcoin basically somewhere around about $60,000, give or take, a little bit from that number. Of course, if it does hit the upside from that, 2.25% to the upside would put Bitcoin basically around $63,000. I do think that is less likely today, but if Bitcoin were to head back around there, probably looking at a little bit of a boundary on both of those areas, at least for today's daily closure. So moving on from there and following up on yesterday's 12-hour time frame setup, which actually perhaps could evolve into something much greater than this. We did see this one fire off. It did indeed enter into a long trade, and I should remind myself that yes, this one actually did take a loss just a couple days prior on Tuesday. In fact, this one loses more often than not. As you can see, hit rate of 32.25%. That's going to lose basically about 2 out of every 3 times, historically speaking. And this one has fired off right here. And it did enter in at 57,361, and so far so good. And of course, if you are following this one, it is not an optimized trade setup. I was just kind of highlighting the tools with the Krown automation service right here on yesterday's live stream. But it's going to be interesting to follow this one up. Again, a very simple strategy. Just basically anytime the 12-hour time frame closes above the red 5 exponential moving average, it enters into a position, and anytime it closes below, it closes that position, whether it's at a gain or a loss. And over the full history of Bitcoin, it's had some pretty damn good results. Again, profit factor of over 2 actually, with the percent profitable of about 32.25%. And if we go over here into the more detailed data, we can see that the average winning trade has returned about 9.25% versus the average losing trade losing about 2%. So if we were to take about 9% from this open, which happened officially yesterday, where that put us again on average. In fact, I think that we've actually already seen that 9% puts Bitcoin at 62,400. We did see that level hit yesterday. Could this one go on for more? Sure. But again, if you want to play it in the exact way that this one was tested, you have to wait until the closure happens below that red 5. And as of right now, that is at just above $59,000. So, this one could perhaps go on for more. Could be perhaps a much bigger winner. We'll monitor it and see it. But if you are just playing this by the statistics and you did enter in on that position yesterday, it did hit the average win. Might be prudent, maybe take a little bit off the table. That is, a decent sized trade already, just in my opinion at least. But of course, you can use this information however you want. I just want to be presenting the statistics as they are. And yes, this is a highly unoptimized strategy. I just wanted to showcase how something so simple could be, actually quite effective. Now, what's even more interesting to me over here is that we can actually use a very similar strategy on the daily time frame, which did fire off on yesterday's daily closure. Basically the same thing here. Closure above that red 5 on the daily does initiate a long position, and when it closes below, it will close that position. I want to just quickly see if there's any other conditions for this particular one. Let me just go through here really quickly. And what do we have? Okay, yes, pretty much nothing else. And yeah, this one as simple as possible too, basically. And you can see over the full history of Bitcoin, it has played incredibly well. Now I would probably, if I'm looking at this data, I'd probably omit this first like fifth of it over here, just because Bitcoin was a little bit too young, and so those returns are likely over exaggerated. But still, with a profit factor of over 4, I mean that leaves a lot of room for error. Percent profitable again under 33%, so you're going to be losing more trades than winning trades. But those winning trades, if we go into the performance summary, return on average almost 23%. The average losing trade loses about 2.75%. it doesn't take a fucking monkey to figure out that that's a winning proposition. So, that would be measured from yesterday's closure, and what would 22% on top of that look like on average? That would put Bitcoin. That would actually put Bitcoin on new highs. That would be basically suggesting that, the V-shaped recovery is real and things maybe run from here. I think that that's a little bit less likely. Let's see how many bars we would expect these trades to take out on to play out on average. You actually can't see it because it's cut off on my screen, but it is 10 bars on average for those winning trades. So that would be 10 days basically from yesterday. So the next week and a half. I guess I would be a little bit skeptical of that myself, especially on the first closure above. Typically these, don't run for too long. And again, it will be closed on any closure below that red 5. So, overall, we'll watch this one in conjunction with the 12-hour time frame setup right here. And so far, so good. Again, very simple stuff, highly unoptimized. If you are in the quant program, or the Krown quant automation service right here, you have better templates that I posted in the Discord, and of course you can use those and iterate off of them. In fact, you should iterate off of them because you likely will find even better optimizations, but these are workable nonetheless. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to get into something else that is in the horizon. It's not confirmed just yet here, although it looks highly likely. There is going to very likely be regular bullish divergence on the 5-day time frame. Bitcoin did put in a lower low, actually yet again on the 5-day time frame, I should add, between the lows of early July and the lows that we saw in early August just this week. And that is going to be in conjunction with a higher low on the 5-day RSI. So, assuming that things do close basically somewhere around here, I would say really anywhere above $60,000 would do it for me. You have 2 confirmed local lows, and you have some bullish divergence on top of that. So you have yet another thing, another metric suggesting upside more likely than downside overall here. And the lows very, very likely. And of course, today is the weekly closure for CME. And as the weekly stands right now, it is one massive hammer, as you can see. And more importantly than that, despite this week's price action to the downside, which admittedly would have certainly overshot, things that I was looking at based off of the hash ribbons. I did look at things as likely to come down between $56,000 to $60,000, yes, but of course a wick below there by 10+% was not included in that. This was done on a closing basis analysis, so we should be looking at this really from a line chart perspective. And what's very illuminating about this, as it stands, with 13 hours and 18 minutes and 1 second left to go, this is very likely going to be your closure. Perhaps even the pattern bros are going to start to call this an inverted herp and derp, which maybe it is. This could be your right derp over here with your left derp over here, and your herp all the way from July. So possible there, yes. But ultimately, when you do just look at closures rather than wicks, for the grand scheme of things, when it comes to just general analysis, very little has actually changed, even despite this past week's of price action. Now, of course, that's not very comforting, nor helpful, nor actionable when you do have major wicks like we saw to the downside, this week. But keeping, if you are just looking at these videos for general analysis, closures, in my experience, are the best thing to be going off of because it kind of gets rid of the noise. And it appears to me that this is likely going to be a noisy, a noisy week that we saw here. And as far as things go, not that concerning to me as it stands, especially with Bitcoin back above $60,000 before the closure. That's a signal in and of itself, at least in my opinion. On top of that, we're also going to see, if I go over here to CME for our stochastic momentum, we're going to see that continue up as well. In fact, not traditional, but spot price action for Bitcoin is going to also have a fresh cross the upside, rejecting the bearish control zone. This one obviously doesn't close today; it closed on Sunday, but pivot is $54,000. It's possible, certainly, but I'm seeing more things here that are suggestive that not only the lows are in, but it's likely sideways and up from here, with maybe a short-term pullback. Could come back down very easily below $60,000. Let's go over here to our HPDR ranges and see where the major pivots are. And basically as long as Bitcoin's above 59. That really could be your V-shaped recovery. If it does come back down below 59, it will call things into question. I probably would be looking for a retest somewhere around 55 or, anywhere around there. But so far, so good. And let's actually see what the weekly looks like here. for CME coming to the end of today. Crawled its way back into the 38.2 level. I mean, this market's fucking crazy, but it is what it is. I mean, that's, you know, if we're going to play this game, we have to be aware that that's a possibility. And in this case, that possibility was a reality. So fair enough, man. Again, from another completely different look here, just looking at historical returns, if Bitcoin's in the 38.2 range, I mean, again, nothing's really changed. I think this is I mean, this is, you know, I don't want to be confirming my biases too much here, but if I'm just looking at the line chart, I don't see any major issues, especially as long as Bitcoin's above 59 or even 58.5 as of this point. So, you know, it's a long day left to go. A lot can happen, of course, and I do suspect that we will see a pullback today, but you know, so far so good. Keep those numbers in mind. We'll have the weekly closure obviously officially for tomorrow's video. We can follow up on the other setups as well. I'm curious what's going to happen on this pullback. Will this one get not invalidated, but closed here for maybe a slight profit? We'll see, but I suspect that we will see some sort of a reconnect between price action and that red 5 in the relatively short term. So yeah, that's going to do it for me today. I'll sign off on that note. What else do I want to say? Oh yes, there is actually something very nice in the Discord right now. If you go to the streams tab, something special we're actually working on in the background, and I'm going to be working on even more special things on top of that. So check it out. As you know, if you're looking for non-KYC exchanges and alternatives, there does seem to be some actual alternatives as of now. So yeah, that's going to do it for right now. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.